In my never-ending quest to find the perfect sub-$200 smartphone, I came across a very interesting option, and one that looks just like a very familiar phone that we all know and love, the Galaxy S7 Edge. Hi, my name's Andrew, and this is the review of the Elephone S7 from China. Let's find out if it's worth your money. It's hard to argue with the fact that the Samsung Galaxy S7 Edge is certainly a class-leading device, and with the S8 on its way next month, I wanted to see what a $200 Chinese knockoff would be like. That's where this comes in. It's the Elephone S7, and for $200 or even less, I wanted to see if it could compete with the big boys, and if it's worth the $200 price tag. You'd be surprised at what I found out. First off the bat, packaging was okay, and in fact they include a polyurethane case in the box, which is a nice added bonus. At first glance, I thought I was looking at the dead ringer for the Galaxy S7 Edge. It's that close in terms of looks. But that's where the comparisons really end. What you get under the hood is the MediaTek Helio X20 CPU. It's got 4 GB of RAM and 64 GB of onboard storage. Now it comes in 4 colors: gold, green, blue, and what I have here, black. Now you can get it at gearbest.com. Right now it's $209, but I've seen it less than $200 on flash sales, so keep your eyes on the lookout for any potential sale. But the star of this show has to be its 5.5-inch fully laminated curved display. That's a resolution of 1920 by 1080. That's about 401 pixels per inch, and it does get bright at about 379 nits. Now, the curve is not as pronounced as you would find on the Galaxy S7 Edge, but it is curved nonetheless, and it doesn't have the functionality as you would find on the S7 Edge. You won't get the edge panels or any of the other functionality that Samsung bakes into its OS, but nonetheless, this is a very nice curved display. The phone itself feels very good in the hand, very comfortable to hold, and at 5.2 ounces, it's pretty light, but it doesn't feel too light, if you know what I mean. One thing to keep in mind, it's a big fingerprint magnet and it is prone to scratching, so you will need to use a case. Probably to save on cost, they went with micro USB to charge this device, rather than the more forward-thinking USB Type-C that we're seeing in more and more devices going forward. On the top of the device, you'll find your 3.5mm headphone jack, and it worked very well with no interference. On the left side of the device, you'll find your dual SIM tray, which houses the dual SIMs, or if you want to expand storage, a micro SD card. On the right side of the device, you'll find your volume rocker up and down, along with your power button. On the front of the device, you'll find your home button, which is also your fingerprint sensor. Now, it worked very well without any issues and registered my finger pretty much every time I used it. And I like the fact of the added functionality because the home button is customizable. Despite having 2 speaker grills on the bottom, it has a mono speaker. I'm pretty sure it's a mono speaker, although I can't be certain. And here it is in action.
January, I got a first look at the Samsung Chromebook Pro and the Chromebook Plus. The Chromebook Pro has not been released yet. That's coming in April. But I was able to pick up the Chromebook Plus. That's the one running the ARM processor. Hi, my name's Andrew, and this is the full review of the Samsung Chromebook Plus.
I wasn't blown away by the speaker. It lacked bass, and it was okay in terms of volume. Overall, I'd say it's serviceable. At $200, I wanted to see how the camera would be. On the back, it has a 13 megapixel shooter that shoots 1080p 30 frames per second. And the 13 megapixel camera itself was okay. It wasn't too bad. Definitely can get the job done, and at $200 price point, it certainly is passable. But bear in mind, it's not going to do great in low light situations, and again, at this price point, I wasn't expecting to have a high-end camera to begin with. It has a 5 megapixel camera on the front that shoots 720p at 30 frames per second. Here it is in action. This is the picture-in-picture mode on the Elephone S7, and as you can see, it is pretty interesting. Could be a little bit gimmicky, but nonetheless it works. Unlike some other Chinese phones at this price range, this comes with Android 6.0 and it's pretty much stock Android, and they don't overload you with some bloatware and Chinese spyware. So I was happy to see a very stock Android experience. I'm not sure how Elephone will do in terms of security patches, and it seems they're not up to date on them, so that's something to keep in mind. At $200, I wasn't expecting to be blown away in terms of performance, but I was pleasantly surprised at the Geekbench 4 test results. On the multi-core score, it did 3052, a pretty good score indeed. And its built-in graphics did 2055. For you gamers out there, it did 44,649 on the Antutu benchmark. Not great 3D scores, not a great gaming phone per se, but it certainly can play certain titles without any issues or any stutterance or anything like that. On the Slingshot Extreme test, it did 625, not very good. It's a more intensive test, so keep that in mind. It only did 611 on the Slingshot test, which is a little bit of a surprising score indeed. It did 7,065 on the Ice Storm Unlimited test. And it did 4,792 on the Ice Storm Extreme test. But please keep something in mind. For $200 or less, you're getting decent performance at that price range. That's something you really need to keep in mind. The Elephone S7 sports a 3000 mAh battery, and here's how it did on the AMDtech endurance test. When the device is idle, meaning it's without wireless LAN and a minimum brightness, it did 8 hours and 9 minutes. Wi-Fi surfing did 3 hours and 49 minutes. Watching an H.264 1080p movie, 5 hours 37 minutes. And under heavy load, it did 2 hours and 56 minutes. Bottom line, it can be an all-day device depending on what you're doing with this device. So, at the end of the day, can this replace your Galaxy S7 Edge? And the answer is, don't be silly, of course not. But as a secondary device, one that you don't really care what happens to it if you drop it or scratch it, and as a burner phone, this certainly fits the bill. Here's what I like. I like its bright, vivid, curved display. I like its good build quality and build construction. I like the fact that it runs stock Android, and you don't get any of the bloatware or the Chinese spyware that haunts a lot of these low-end devices. And I like the fact that you get pretty good performance at a very good price. Hence, the price to performance ratio is very good. But of course, with any device, there are going to be things that need improvement, and here they are. Its so-so battery life is not going to blow you away, but depending on your activities, depending on how hard you push it, you may be able to get a full day if you're conservative in your battery usage. And I am a bit concerned about its lack of security updates. That's something you really need to keep in mind. And its limited LTE coverage in some countries may be an issue. Check your carrier to see if they support the bands on this phone. But with those few negatives aside, I have to say this checks all the boxes you'd want in a secondary phone that you don't care if you scratch or break or lose. And that's why I'm going to give it 80%, making this a good secondary burner phone, making this worth your money. So what do you think about the Elephone S7? I know it's a blatant ripoff, knockoff, whatever you want to call it, of the Galaxy S7 Edge by Samsung. The bottom line is it's still a good phone at $200. It's not going to be great. It's not going to have the highest end specs. But that curved screen is very nice at 5.5 inches, full 1080p resolution. I thought it was pretty good. And the fact of the matter is you're only paying a fraction of the price you'd pay, say, for a Samsung Galaxy S7 Edge or the upcoming S8 and so forth, or the Apple iPhone 7 Plus, or even, of course, the Google Pixel and Pixel XL. All of those higher-end phones, but with higher price tags. But here you're getting at around $200 or so or less. You're getting pretty good specs, pretty good performance at a great price. And I think that's the overall feature here that you want to pay attention to. Price to performance ratio. But I'm curious to know what you think. Leave a comment in the comment section below. I am curious to know what you think of the Elephone S7. So please hit the like button, please subscribe, please share this video. Don't forget to leave a comment in that comment section below. Let me know how I'm doing. Let me know if there's a device or something out there you think I should review. I'll do my best to try to make that happen. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook and on Twitter and our website, AMDtechreviews.com. So until next time, this is Andrew from AMDtech. See ya.